Let me ask you about exercise, actually, because I get up in the morning and I go to the gym, I'll lift my weights. I realize that that is not the ideal time to train. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about circadian rhythm, exercise, and performance for women, understanding that you're going to talk about what's ideal based on circadian biology and core body temperature and all of that. And someone like myself who has the teenagers and the work and all the things doesn't necessarily have the time to adapt ideally. So, but I do want my listeners to understand from a mechanistic perspective, how can we, if it is available to us, how can we optimize performance when we're taking into account circadian rhythm and exercise?
Yeah, so exercise at any time is better than no exercise. Let's make that clear. So
Yeah.
whatever time you're getting to exercise, you should do that. When it comes to intense exercise, then there is some data now showing that late afternoon exercise may be better than early morning exercise. But here again, there are some caveats because all the studies are done on people who habitually don't exercise or habitually maybe exercising at a random time. And then when you're putting them into late or early, then you might see some effect that may not be observed if these people habitually exercise in the morning. So the point is, suppose say I don't exercise, and then I was recruited to a study where I asked to exercise in the morning for a couple of weeks, or 5 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is. And then I'm asked to rest for a few weeks. And then I'm asked to exercise in the evening. And then they figure out what is my performance. Or vice versa. My twin brother may be recruited to the same study. He might start in the morning exercise, then wash out, and then, he may start with the afternoon exercise, wash out, and then morning exercise. So what people are finding, some scientists are finding, is late afternoon exercise, the same exercise, will reduce blood sugar level much more efficiently than the same exercise in the morning. But what is interesting is as people exercise more and more, the morning exercise group also begin to see the same benefit as the afternoon exercise group. So there is this caveat. So this is for blood sugar in people who have pre-diabetes or diabetes. So this study actually gained a lot of attention recently, and there are some physiological explanation for this too. So one thing is all these studies are done with people who are doing high intensity interval training, very strenuous exercise. And we know that for many of these exercises, your body has to warm up. You need some warm up period, right?
Yeah.
And usually late afternoon, our body is naturally warmer than in the morning. So that might be one reason why late afternoon exercise is better for performance, whether it's metabolic performance or physical performance.
And it's less injurious too. Like the tendons are warm, the ligaments are warm, that kind of
Yeah, everything is warm. So then, particularly for older, middle-aged or older adults, it's actually much better to exercise in the late afternoon because your risk for injury is less. Your motor coordination is much better because your brain is awake. When you are exercising, your brain is also telling your muscles to coordinate so that you don't fall, your steps are perfect and all that stuff. So that's why late afternoon exercise is much better. Then if you come to elite athletes, then there is also some data showing that late afternoon exercise or late afternoon performance is way much better than early morning because the performance difference between morning and afternoon is larger than the time difference between gold medal and silver medal in Olympics.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in some of the sports. So these are some of the findings. So then what people should be doing, one thing is, okay, so if you have teenage kids who are into sports, the best thing you can do is let them sleep enough because what we are seeing is a lot of teenagers, just like you said, teenagers are starting to see their soccer practice or soccer game at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. They are going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. They don't have enough time for recovery. And that's really difficult on these young people. And particularly for young women who are into soccer, they are more likely to injure a tendon or ligament, and then the entire sports world may be completely closed for them if you have a serious injury. So that's why it's important to give everybody enough time to rest after exercise or after sports practice. And then coming back to what everybody can do is if you're doing exercise in the morning, continue exercising, don't stop that. But if you have the option of exercising late afternoon, then maybe it's better to switch to late afternoon exercise. And if you can do it even outdoor, that's much better. Going for a run, going for outdoor activities is much better because you get both exercise and light exposure at the same time.
Fantastic. So if I'm paraphrasing here, like if we were in an optimal world, maybe in the morning you might go for a walk or something outdoors where you're getting that blue light from the sun that's resetting the circadian clock. And then if you have time to allow that core body temperature, the joints, it's the motor coordination to sort of reach its peak, it's somewhere, is it like 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. ish? Like what would be the ideal sort of time for that?
So it's usually late afternoon. So it's typically after 3 till maybe
Okay.
6, 7 p.m. That
And
seems
then
to be
what's the cutoff? So what is the point where you start interfering with that high intensity, with that cortisol and being able to kind of recover from that post-exercise?
So there is a very nice paper that came out in Nature Communication recently from Australia, and they looked at thousands of people. They found that those who did high intensity exercise after 7 p.m., I guess, within, say, 3 to 4 hours of their bedtime, ritual bedtime, then it interferes with their sleep. So I always go by the habitual bedtime because if somebody is going to bed at 9 p.m., 3 hours before is very different from someone going to bed at 11 or midnight.
Right. Okay, great. I love that. And then what about, we hear a lot about exercise snacks. So maybe people don't have the time to go to the gym or to go for an hour-long jog or whatever it is. Is there a role for non-continuous exercise as a way to support circadian biology? And does it follow the same rules that you just described, where maybe it's, you want to sort of cut it off at about 3 to 4 hours before bedtime?
So this becomes very important for after party. So particularly after menopause, what happens is, as I said, we are more likely to wake up early. We are also more likely to be more active in the first half of the day, become almost sedentary in the second half or in the evening because, particularly empty nesters whose kids have gone to college and you have not much to do and your friends are busy throughout the week. In the late afternoon, you just come home and then sit in front of the computer, sit in front of the TV or streaming services in the evening. So that becomes an issue because you just had a nice dinner and then your blood sugar is pretty high and you're sedentary. So this is where some exercise snack, even a little bit of movement after dinner, walking around the block, or if you want, you can even have 10 or 20 squats.
Yeah.
And those things actually help.
Yeah.
And even doing your laundry, going up and down the stairs, because we don't pay attention, but we actually become more and more sedentary towards the late afternoon, evening time as we get older. And there are also a lot of data showing how we get older and how we reduce our nighttime or late afternoon exercise, and our dinner also becomes bigger meal towards the end. So it's very counterproductive for our health. So these exercise snacks, which is not going to increase your cortisol level too high, and you're not going to sweat. It's just some movement. It's very important to have in late afternoon.
Just to get the food into the muscles.
Yeah.
just enough to get the food out of the blood, the blood sugar, to get it out of the blood and maybe get it stored in the muscles as glycogen.
Because there is also, muscle also absorbs glucose in insulin-independent fashion. If you activate your muscle, do some little exercise, then even though your pancreas is not producing enough insulin or pancreas has gone to sleep, you can still get few extra grams of sugar into your muscle.